Now, without a doubt, in this current generation of test players, there are only two spinners that easily stand out. One of them is Ravichandran Ashwin, and the other is Nathan Lyon. And there's so much talk about who's better than the other. So let's break that down. And let's also talk about what makes them so different. Even though traditionally they are just right arm finger spinners, they're off spinners, they're very, very different. And that is also because of where they come from. Now, before we talk about their technique and what makes them so different, even statistically, it shows that they're very, very different because of where they come from. Now, for Ashwin, 80% of his wickets have come in India, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh, with an average of 21 and a strike rate of 45. Whereas the rest of the wickets, 103 wickets, have come outside of these three countries and a strike rate of 70. Whereas for Nathan Lyon, it's completely opposite. Almost 80% of his wickets have come out of countries that are outside of Asia, with an average of 31 and a strike rate of 66. Whereas he's taken 113 wickets in India, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh, with an average of 26 and a strike rate of 51. Just looking at this shows how different they are because of where they come from, but let's also talk about what makes them so different in terms of technique. Now let's talk about Nathan Lyon. Pitches in Australia predominantly are fast bowling friendly. They don't assist the spinners that much. Because of that, spinners have to adapt themselves into being a certain kind of bowler. Now Nathan Lyon on average bowls a lot quicker than Ashwin and also has a side on action. Now what does side on action mean? Let's look at this, right? Let's stop at a particular position to exactly explain what side on action means. Now, in Nathan Lyon's stride, we can see two things, and that is his chest is facing the non-striker and not the batter. I'll repeat that again. His chest is facing the non-striker and not the batter, and his non-bowling arm, that is his left arm, is across his head and not beside his head. If you see his hand here, we can see his head is here, his hand's across his head. This is a very side-on action. Now let's look at Ashwin. The same series, the same year, and we'll also see why one was successful over the other. His chest is facing the batter, and his non-bowling arm, his left arm, is beside his head and not across his head like Nathan Lyon, and where his chest is also facing the non-striker. Now, why do bowlers do this? Why did Nathan Lyon do this? If you look at it statistically, in 2014-15 Border Gavaskar Trophy, Nathan Lyon was the most successful bowler. He was the highest wicket taker, 4 matches, 23 wickets with an average of 34. Whereas Ashwin played only 3 matches, took only 12 wickets with an average of 48, which is quite a bit. And this clearly shows in their action as well, right? Nathan Lyon from Australia will exactly know what to do to pick up wickets there because he is from there. He's been successful there for a reason. Now, bowlers have a side on action, especially in countries like Australia or even South Africa, because when you bowl with a side on action, the ball tends to get more overspin, more top spin. Now, this is a cricket ball. The ball will spin almost forwards with the seam slightly towards the leg stump or even the batsman for them to extract turn. So ball is not going to turn square. Overspin allows the ball to get more bounce, and pitches like this allows the ball to get more bounce naturally. Anyway, when you have overspin, the ball tends to vary inbound. So some might just zoot up a lot or some might just go naturally to the batsman. And so it becomes a little more difficult. And because Nathan Lyon is from Australia, he on average bowls a lot quicker than Ashwin because pitches in Australia need you to bowl quicker to get more spin, to get more anything out of the pitch as a spinner. In 2014, because this was Ashwin's early years and this was his first time in Australia, he didn't really adapt himself. Now, he comes from India, a country where pitches assist spinners naturally. You don't need to turn the ball. You don't need to put a lot of effort into the ball. You just need to put it where you want it to, and pitch will do the rest. And that's where spinners who have a front on action usually come from Asia, where the pitches allow the ball to turn naturally. You don't have to put in a lot of effort. If anything, you want to turn the ball a lot squarer. And this is what Ashwin's trying to do with his front on action. You get more side spin with the front on action. So if this is Nathan Lyon with the side on action spinning the ball, this is Ashwin with his front on action trying to spin the ball. He's trying to spin the ball more square. There's more side spin to the ball. It doesn't necessarily get more bounce. If he does get more bounce, it's again because of the pitch, not because of what he's putting into the ball. But that's the basic difference of what these guys are trying to do. Now, this is 2014-15 in Australia, where Nathan Lyon by far is more successful than Ashwin. Now, there's a reason why a lot of people consider Ashwin the better bowler as compared to these two. It's not just stats. We can look into the stats and we'll look into that later. but it's the adaptability, right? Now let's look at Ashwin over the years. Now this is Ashwin in the 2020-21 series. Now again, if you look at his chest, it's not very side on. He's still quite front on. His chest is still almost facing the batter. It's not as prominent as it was in 2014, but in 2020-21, there's one big difference. It's his leg. Now if you see his front leg, that's his left leg, he's putting in more of an effort to bowl, and this clearly shows his arm is again across his head. He's not as front on as he was in 2014. His arm is almost across his head, but we'll leave that aside. He's putting in a lot of effort with his leg. His stride is a lot heavier. He's doing a lot more with his leg. Now if you see his front leg, there's a lot more effort being put in. He steps on the pitch. There's a lot more effort as compared to if you look at his 2014 series, where it almost seems like he's just doing what he used to do in India. He's just running into bowl with his action. It seems like there's a lot of pull with his arm, but as a bowler, you need your hips, you need your legs to put in a lot more effort, which he evidently did in 2020-21. Now, as a spinner, there's a lot of science behind being able to spin the ball, extracting the bounce. There's a lot of hip, there's a lot of legs, there's a lot of hands into play. But I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible just for you to see those little differences, because we will see Ashwin bowl against Bangladesh, against New Zealand, then we will go to Australia, and Ashwin will do things to change his action, to extract more things from the pitch. And for you guys to understand these small little things, I'm just trying to explain, keep things simple, just for you to know the kind of difference it made for Ashwin. Now, when we look at the stats, when Ashwin came back later on in 2020-21 to Australia, Ashwin was by far more successful than he was in 2014. And not only that was he more successful, he was a lot more consistent, but he did better than Nathan Lyon. In 2020-21 series, played 3 matches, picked up 12 wickets with an average of 28. Nathan Lyon played 4 matches, picked up only 9 wickets with an average of 55. Clearly, Ashwin did a lot better. Now, it's not just in Australia, but now even when you compare Ashwin in England, I'm not going to go back as to what he used to do, but if you compare the 2014-15 series and compare Ashwin to this, a couple of years ago when Ashwin went to England, he was wildly successful when given a chance, and it was because of how much effort he put into his action. Now, if you see his load itself, now when I say load, that is the jump, that includes the jump, him loading his arm and everything. Now, if you look at that, there's so much going into his action. There's so much body going into his action. Because again, in this pitch in England, you don't get a lot of spin in a lot of different grounds. And if anything, you have to put in a lot of body. Now, Ashwin, depending on the condition and depending on where he plays, he keeps switching up his action. He can either go front on or side on. It's not that big of a difference. A lot of difference, like I said, is in his load. The way he loads up his leg, the way he loads up his hand. And it's a lot of that. Now, this is another example of how just a couple of years ago, he was in Australia, side on action. And then this is last year in India, where he went completely front on. Nothing about him is side on. You can see his chest facing the batter, his hand beside his head. He's completely front on. Like he doesn't care about getting a lot of bounce, because he knows with his height he will get that anyways. He's trying to turn the ball square. He's trying to get so much from this pitch, and we see that in a lot of dismissals in that series, where Ashwin's trying to spin the ball square. He's very front on, and he gets the wickets that he does. And he did well in that series. So like I said, Ashwin, depending on the condition, changes up quite a bit. Whereas Nathan Lyon, when we come to Nathan Lyon, now we saw him in 2014. This is him in 2023. Again, a lot of this is in Australia, but not much has changed. If anything, he's only fine-tuned his action. He's gone more sidearm. He uses the crease a lot more. Like you can see, he's bowling wide outside from the crease. And we have made a lot of videos like this on Instagram as well. If you want to check out our Instagram, our link is in the description below, so go check that out. Now, I feel like that is something Nathan Lyon doesn't keep up with in terms of the conditions and where he's playing. Now, of course, he has been successful in India. If you compare Ashwin and Nathan Lyon has 56 wickets with an average of 27 and a strike rate of 51, whereas Ashwin has more wickets, 69 wickets in 11 matches with an average of 21 and strike rate of 51. Of course, Ashwin's done better in India because home conditions and all of that, but Nathan Lyon's not that far off. His average could improve, but that's the thing, right? Because Nathan Lyon is the same as he is in Australia as compared to India. The only other thing that he changes when he comes to India is his pace. He doesn't need to bowl as quick. Now, he's still trying to do the same thing as he did in Australia, bowling with the side on action, getting a lot of front spin, like getting a lot of top spin per se, but it doesn't help in India. Now, you more often than not want side spin on a ball for the ball to turn square than top spin, what Nathan Lyon does. Also, why Nathan Lyon hasn't been as successful in India as compared to an Ashwin, but also why Ashwin has been able to adapt himself and done better in Australia as compared to Nathan Lyon the last time around. Now, we can look at a lot of stats and a lot of numbers, and there are a lot of reasons why Ashwin is better than Nathan Lyon. Now, the other aspect, which I think is very underrated in Test cricket, is variations. Now, Ashwin evidently has a lot more variations than almost any other bowler in the international circuit, but evidently way more than Nathan Lyon. And this does help because when things go stagnant, when things are monotonous, when the pitch isn't doing much and the batters are settled in, these variations help you get wickets, help you make the batters think. And that is what you want as a fielding unit, that is what you want as a bowler, and that is what Ashwin is also able to do. Now, this is all between side on, front on, Nathan Lyon and Ashwin, and what makes one different than the other, and why is one different compared to the other. But if we were given a choice, and of course we are Indian, so we would have that bias, but the number of wickets, the way Ashwin has adapted himself, the way Ashwin is almost experimenting every time, trying to keep up with the game, I feel like Ashwin is ahead of Nathan Lyon in terms of being an off spinner, being a bowler. And if we were given a choice, regardless of which country, even though it doesn't get picked a lot in England, and that is also because of the Jadeja factor and the fact that he can bat and all of that. If we were given a choice, we would choose Ravichandran Ashwin over Nathan Lyon in our test match team. Now, if you want more videos like this, like, share and subscribe, all that good stuff. We put out videos on Tuesdays and Fridays. We talk about cricket technique. We break down techniques, stats, and we talk about the Indian cricket team. The Dilip Trophy is going on, and we will also cover that. And then we have the India-Bangladesh test series coming up. A lot of cricket coming up, so subscribe and follow us and keep up with us. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.